Hello and welcome to Freedom Watch. I'm Judge Andrew Napolitano here defending freedom, defending your natural rights, and defending your right to have a government that stays within the confines of the Constitution. When you hear people say that America has a two-party system, you might stop to remember that the two major political parties may be popular, but they are not your only options, or at least in a free and open democratic system, they shouldn't be your only options. However, a disturbing California law on the ballot for June 8th would create so-called top two primaries. Listen to this. Under this plan, voters can pick state legislature candidates from any party, not necessarily the one to which they belong, during the primary election, but only the most popular two candidates from the primary advance to the general election. So even if those two candidates are both Democrats or both Republicans, then the most popular candidates from the same party will be on the ballot. That means that in liberal districts, the general election may often be a contest between two Democrats, and in conservative districts, the general election may often pit two Republicans against each other. Our next guest has two reasons to dislike this plan. First, she is the founder of the Free and Equal Elections Foundation, which fights for greater ballot access and for third-party independent candidates. Second, she is herself a candidate from a minor party in California, the Libertarian Party, for Secretary of State. Interestingly, 2 years ago, she was a ballot access coordinator for Ralph Nader's independent campaign in California. Joining me now is Christina Tobin. Christina, welcome to Freedom Watch.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I guess this is really an only in California story where a proposal to amend the laws as crazy as this bypasses the legislature and gets on the ballot. Tell us what could happen. What could happen to the two-party system as we know it? What could happen to the rights of third parties even to get on the ballot if this thing becomes law?
If Proposition 14 passes, what it is, only the top two vote getters, as you mentioned, in the primary will advance the general election. It means the two candidates with the most money will be the only ones. It could be two Republicans, two Democrats. Proposition 14 is horrible. The voters in 2004 already turned down Proposition 62. But in any case, the difference between that and 14 is that 14, number one, it doesn't even allow you to count write-in votes. It doesn't count write-in votes. Number two, the Peace and Freedom Party and the Libertarian Party will no longer be qualified parties in California. They won't exist anymore. And so in that case, it's very unfair. The proponents behind Prop 14 went out of their way to integrate these terrible restrictions on top of what they did in 2004. And ultimately, it would cause harm and create Louisiana-style politics if it were to pass here in California during the June 8th primary.
Would it apply to all races statewide, or would it apply only to some races? For example, would this affect the election of the governor, the election of United States senators, of members of Congress, of mayors of cities and towns, or just the state legislature?
All of them, but it will not affect the presidential races. But in any case, if you have an individual like Ralph Nader run again, or Ron Paul, Ralph running the single-payer doctors movement, if this passes, it will put an end. Richard Wingert of Ballot Access News quotes it as the biggest threat to third parties and independents in the last 50 years. Louisiana-style politics, they've had top two for almost 30 years, from 1978 to 2006. And of all those 30 years, no incumbents were knocked off the ballot. They dropped top two in 2008. 5 incumbents were knocked off the ballot.
Right, who's behind this? Who's behind this, Christine, and what is their goal? Is it incumbents from both parties?
Well, there was this backroom budget deal last February. It's so dirty, bad politicians between Maldonado and Arnold Schwarzenegger, governor, lieutenant governor. Fancy that. But in any case, a backroom budget deal, no legislative hearings, and in order to pass the budget, Arnold agreed. Okay, Maldonado, we'll put Prop 14 on the ballot, and essentially, it'll help Maldonado get reelected if it passes. Selfish, greedy politicians.
The last time the Supreme Court of the United States looked at a state trying to tinker with ballot access was 1997. And at the time, the court said, you know what? The states can pretty much decide for themselves The word party is not mentioned in the Constitution, but we do expect that there will be two parties on the ballot, or at least two parties on the ballot, because that's been the history and the tradition and the culture and the value of American politics. I don't think this thing will be approved by a federal court if it passes. In other words, I don't think it'll get anywhere. It's so one-sided. It so favors the group that's in. It so disfavors people that want to bring new ideas and fresh approaches to government.
And the money behind it, the proponents that are paying $500,000, millions, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Dream Team funds, who knows where that money is coming from. The California Health Association says it will result in more moderate candidates and anti-single-payer legislatures. So, I mean, the intent behind this is anything but pure. In any case, Prop 14 it's just a predator to the third party's independence and disenfranchise Democrats and Republicans as well.
Who would actually vote in the primaries? In other words, could Democrats vote in a Republican primary? Could Republicans vote in a Democratic primary? Are you essentially going to have two general elections, one in the spring to pick the top two and one in the fall to pick the finalist?
No, there's just the primary, the general. So basically, two candidates will be chosen. They could be just two Democrats, two Republicans, and for 6 months, there would be campaigning between the two richest candidates. Washington State passed top two in 2008. For the first time since Washington State's been a state since the late 1800s, no third parties or independents advanced the general election. It sterilizes the political cleansing. From 2000 previously to top two, there were 45 third party and independents that tried to run, but when top two passed in 2008, only 12. So it's very bad.
Did any court rule on whether or not this is constitutional when the state of Washington did it 2 years ago?
According to Richard Winger of Ballot Access News, that's still pending. So whether this is constitutional or not, that's another issue that could create a lot of taxpayers' dollars spent in courts in the future to figure out if this bill, in essence, is constitutional or not, which, in my opinion, it is not.
I'm telling you, I am in full accord with you. It is unconstitutional. I hope there are many challenges to it, even though, as you say, innocent taxpayers' dollars will be spent to defend this monstrosity if it passes. Christina Tobin, thank you for joining us from New York.
Thank you.
Thank you from New York, defending freedom. Until the next time, stay free, America.